On our second big story tonight, we move on to that now. The Justice Department decides not to prosecute former FBI Director James Comey over the way he handled classified memos about his interactions with the Trump White House. The report did, however, say Comey set a dangerous example with his actions. The 83-page document pointed out several missteps on the part of Comey, including the fact that he violated FBI policies by leaking unclassified memos to his friend, with instructions for him to share the contents with a reporter. Now, back in 2017, Comey admitted that he leaked those memos to make sure a special counsel was appointed to oversee the Russia investigation. Now, despite the rebuke of Comey's behavior, the former FBI director took a bit of a victory lap on Twitter today. Quoting Comey here, he wrote that, quote, "I found no evidence that he or his attorneys released any of the classified information contained in any of the memos to members of the media." Comey continued to quote from the report, "I don't need a public apology from those who defame me, but a quick message with you. Sorry we lied about you would be nice." All right, joining us now is Harvard Law Professor Emeritus and Newsmax contributor Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, great to see you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right, what was your reaction? It did seem like James Comey was taking a bit of a victory lap after this report.
Oh, he shouldn't be taking a victory lap. He's been much criticized and deservedly criticized, but he's not going to be prosecuted. I think that was the right answer on both respects. He should be condemned, but he should not be prosecuted. There's not enough evidence to show that he willfully committed a crime revealing classified information. But you know, he certainly acted guilty. The idea that he laundered these memos through a Columbia law professor instead of having the courage to stand up in front of TV cameras and say, look, I'm putting these memos out because I think a special prosecutor ought to be appointed, and I think we ought to go after President Trump. If he had done that, that would be one thing. He'd then be some kind of a whistleblower. Right. But for him to launder the information through a professor was a kind of consciousness of guilt. He knew he was doing something wrong.
Yeah, not that much different than like what an Edward Snowden did, except it did seem like Comey was very calculated. He knew what he was doing. I don't know if a loophole is the right word, but by giving this to the professor, this is a calculated move by Comey's part to essentially leak this information.
I agree, but it's not Snowden. You know, Snowden leaked highly classified information that could endanger the national security of the United States.
And I did say almost, not quite. And I know I'm being a little bombastic with that, but this is some guy leaking information that should not be leaked. No
question. And he shouldn't do it in the way he did it. And I think he was appropriately criticized. I don't know why he thinks that he deserves a victory lap. He also, according to the Inspector General's report, violated the rules of the FBI and the Justice Department and violated his employment contract.
Yeah, I'm not a psychiatrist, but it does seem very cavalier, which seems kind of on brand for Comey. Let's take a look at what GOP Senator Lindsey Graham wrote here, because I am curious what this means now for the ongoing Senate investigation in this. This is the first of what I expect will be several more ugly and damning rebukes of senior DOJ and FBI officials regarding their actions and biases towards the Trump campaign of 2016. But in a broader sense, Professor Dershowitz, do you think this shows us that there is actually some effort to clean up the DOJ? Do you think things are any better now than they were before when James Comey was there?
I think so. I certainly hope so. And I don't think this should be politicized. I don't think this should be seen as a victory for Republicans over Democrats or a vindication of a Democrat. This is the Justice Department trying to clean up its act and trying to make sure that the FBI, which is one of the most powerful agencies in the United States and has the potential to really violate civil liberties, as it did when, for example, J. Edgar Hoover was at its helm, that they be kept in check. And this should be seen as a neutral, objective analysis by a professional civil servant of the inadequacies of what happened, particularly what Comey did. And I don't think we should be anticipating what other reports will say. Sure. Let's wait to see what they say, and then let's be appropriately critical. But this is not a good day for James Comey.
Yeah, and to say it shouldn't be politicized is a little bit like saying, you should put the toothpaste back in the tube. Maybe a little bit too late for that. The Inspector General's office is also still looking into the FBI's conduct during the Mueller probe, and the Attorney General, William Barr, is also overseeing two separate investigations into its origins. What do you think? I know you don't want to speculate too much, but do you think there can be any credibility to a Senate-led investigation, considering, this is already politicized?
I don't think that either Senate or House investigations have much credibility. Senate investigations are Republican-oriented and Democratic ones in the House. That's why I think the Inspector General report was so important. You may remember that from day one, I called for an independent, non-partisan expert commission to look into the influence of Russia on our elections and how to stop it. That would have been the right approach. That would have depoliticized the entire issue and put at the forefront the national security interests of the United States. As you say, though, the toothpaste is out of the tube. I'm certainly not going to spill any more toothpaste out.
And I wonder, Professor Dershowitz, because it is a good idea, and there are people who, Republican senators, Democratic senators, who are concerned about not just the influence of Russia in 2016, but the ongoing influence of Russia. I mean, that seems like a sensible step, maybe somewhere down the road when the dust settles on this. I don't know. We'll see. We got 2 minutes left, and I do want to get to the issue of Jeffrey Epstein with you, including accuser Virginia Giuffre. Now, she's accused you of rape in this, and I noticed this week her attorney David Boies was over her shoulder in Manhattan. But I also know you have some new information that you say further proves that Giuffre, at least, is not telling the truth about you. Please explain.
Well, I never met her. I never knew who she was. We have emails that prove conclusively that in 2011, she had never heard of me. She never met me. Late 2012, in her manuscript, she said she saw me once. In her manuscript, she describes all the people she had sex with, and she describes me as someone she did not have sex with. The whole story was made up. David Boies is the villain of the piece because he was behind much of this. He was her lawyer in 2014. And as soon as she met David Boies and the other lawyers, suddenly she remembered having had sex with me. It's totally made up. I never met her.
If she's out there making this stuff up, do you think that it could further endanger the investigation?
Oh, I think if the federal prosecutors in any way rely on her, they're going to hurt their investigation terribly. Another thing is Giuffre or her lawyer never have had the guts to stand up in front of you or anybody in the media and make an accusation. They always do it hiding behind the litigation privilege in court. You'll note that Giuffre accused me in the courtroom, but then when she went out of the courtroom and make a statement, she only accused Prince Andrew, who she knows won't sue her. She never mentioned me. And none of the media asked, how come you haven't mentioned Dershowitz outside the courthouse? Well, the answer is obvious. She knows if she ever were to falsely accuse me outside of the courthouse, I would sue her in 1 minute and take away all the money that she's won in other cases. And so she never would have the courage to publicly state outside of the courtroom that I did anything inappropriate, because I can prove conclusively I never met her, period. Never.
All right, Professor Dershowitz, great to see you. Thank you for your time, sir.
That would explain, it seems to me, every kind word Donald Trump has ever said about Russia and Vladimir Putin, if true.
Key words there, if true. MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell is facing the heat after retracting a story about Trump's financial ties to Russia. We're going to break it all down next. We'll be right back. You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel, now in 65 million homes. Get Newsmax TV on all the major cable systems, or go to NewsmaxTV.com and click on the Find Newsmax tab to locate us. Remember, Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.